So I'd like to take this opportunity to offer some words on Dhamma, and the subject of this talk is Pride and Prejudice. I'll just see where that takes us. I'd like to begin by paying homage to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I picked this theme of Pride and Prejudice. Reminded of a book I studied at school and that many of you will have read, an old book, Jane Austen book. But actually these qualities are really helpful for us to investigate, and with the intention to let go of pride, to let go of prejudice. And I'd actually like to focus more, to begin with, on prejudice, the mind that judges, the mind that thinks that it knows best, thinks that it knows anything, that it has any kind of handle on reality. The tendency we have to hold on to our views and opinions, and it's particularly a hot topic for monastics, because we've given up so many things that can be a source of distraction and confusion for us. Given up our possessions, given up our handling of money, and all that entails, all the choice and the power and the status and the sense of autonomy, that ownership of, or the sense of ownership of finance and things, houses and cars and property and all the various objects that we have around us in our homes, the sense of ownership of any of those things, that can be can take up quite a lot of our mental space in a way. At least that was my experience, and it's very helpful to be conscious of the kind of pull, the kind of draw, a little bit of a weightiness that we can experience around possessions. And as monastics, we've let go of those things. We've been able to put them aside, and it's very interesting how that can create a sense of lightness and release and a little bit more clarity in some ways, because we're no longer fooled into thinking that we have control or ownership over that which is, breaking up, falling away, impermanent, insubstantial. So there's a certain support we can appreciate in giving up these material objects and potentials. And so what do we have left as monastics? We tend to, even if we've given up certain things, we've made great acts of renunciation, it doesn't necessarily automatically result in a mind that's free from attachment. Unfortunately, it doesn't at all affect that mind. It gives us a chance to perhaps appreciate the quality of attachments, how attached we might be we don't know how attached we are to things, do we, until we lose them, or we have to give them up, or we choose to give them up. And the great benefit of any kind of renunciation is that it reveals to us attachment, the sense of holding on to, the sense of longing for, missing, and so forth. And so we often can't quite appreciate these things when we don't practice any kind of renunciation. It's hard to know how addicted we are to our coffee or tea in the morning, or our bagel, or whatever it might be, habitual sense pleasures, unless we have to give them up. We choose to give them up and see what happens, see how the mind is hitting on that object again and again, wanting, desiring. And we can also see how, if we are willing to renounce and let go of things that we say really enjoy and like, then we can also appreciate how long it takes to let go of that habit, to forget all about the thing that we're so enamored of. We first of all take for granted our simple pleasures in life. We take them for granted unless and until we lose them or renounce them, and then we can appreciate the attachment we may have to different things. But then, if we're willing to continue to renounce and to not give in to desire around that coffee or tea or whatever it is, then we can see how actually the desire will fade, it will pass away, and we forget all about whatever it is. We don't need it anymore. It's no longer an issue. So we can notice through renunciation the ability that we have actually to change, to let go, to come out of habits, to free up from any kind of attachment. But coming back to monastics, we don't get to choose really what we eat and drink. We don't get to choose often where we are, where we live, where we go. This is also helpful to enable us to free up, to enable us to be quite contented with whatever presents itself. If I get some sort of food in a day, I'm super grateful. Whatever it is, if it's solid nourishment, that's wonderful. And we're encouraged, of course, as monks and nuns, not to pick and choose, so not to ask for what we want. If we're invited to say what we want, to just refrain from doing so, and invite any donors just to give whatever they want to give, whatever is right for them to give. This is beautiful, a beautiful practice, and we truly develop a sense of huge appreciation and gratitude, for whatever is offered with a good heart. So we have much less worldly choice in some ways, but we certainly still have that mind that is liable to attachment, liable to holding on to this and that. And what can we hold on to as monks and nuns? The thing that most perplexes and challenges us is often the attachment that we notice, begin to uncover and experience around views, opinions, pride and prejudice. It's the prejudice part, the judgments, the sense of right and wrong, the way we should do it or shouldn't do it. These mental concepts can become very kind of trap us, can entangle us, can fetter us. And so thankfully, in many suttas, the Buddha speaks about views and opinions in different ways. And he is always conveying the message that there's no concept, thought, view, or judgment that is worth holding on to. In fact, he's quite clear in pointing out that all these mental complexes or concepts or ideas are actually a source of suffering for us. They're a source of suffering for us, and they're a source of suffering for others. They're a source of conflict, strife. They even lead to war and tremendous degrees of suffering in this world. So, yeah, it's really good to consider, the thoughts we have about the way things should be, the ideas we have about what's right, what should be done, or shouldn't be done. We can really take encouragement from the Buddha to consider these too as potentially dangerous, potentially harmful for us. If we hold on to views and ideas and opinions, we will suffer. And we may well cause confusion and conflict in the world around us if we choose to bombard others with our views and opinions. And it's really wonderful in monastic life because we all live in communities, or oftentimes we do, and we're all very different kinds of people, from all different backgrounds, all different ideas. And oftentimes, people who choose to take up the holy life, to practice with their full heart 24/7, are oftentimes quite strong characters, often quite independent, and putting such people together and with an encouragement to harmonize, to cooperate, to work together skillfully for the benefit of one and all is potentially quite challenging. We will tend to come up against one another in terms of having different ideas about things, and to hold those ideas sometimes with quite some tenacity. So this gives us an opportunity to let go of judgment, let go of views and opinions. The Buddha said in this sutta I've been looking at just lately, Potaliya Sutta. This is Majjhima Nikaya number 54. This is a sutta that's very clear and concise in a way, speaking about the causes of judgment, the causes of conflict, the causes of a critical mind. And the encouragement is, of course, to let go of these causes and to let go of the judgments. The suttas are entitled Potaliya Sutta. Potaliya was an older gentleman who had retired and given up very admirably, very nobly. He'd given up all his possessions and his wealth, and he'd passed them on to his children with the request that they just allow him to have what he needs to survive. Requisites, food and shelter, clothing, so that he could survive. And all the rest he put aside, gave away, gave up. And he also gave up his control of the decision-making around the family business or around any kind of worldly matters at all. And so he considered himself to be a renunciant, quite rightly, and perhaps was quite proud of having been able to do this. Potaliya meets the Buddha in a forest one afternoon and approaches the Buddha. And the Buddha greets him and invites him, "Householder, please come and join me. Come and sit down." The Buddha addresses Potaliya as a householder because he's wearing household clothes, lay clothes, shoes, carrying an umbrella. But Potaliya is quite upset about being addressed as a householder because he's a renunciant. He's given up so much. He's a bit chagrined that the Buddha doesn't recognize him as somebody who's a spiritual seeker too. And he tells the Buddha, and the Buddha explains, well, yeah, it's because you're dressed the way you are, I referred to you as a householder. And although you say you've let go of all judgment, all decision-making, all control of others' business, this is not really the giving up of judgment, according to my teaching. And after quite, pleasant, friendly conversation, Potaliya is interested, and he asks the Buddha what he means. What are the causes of judgment? What is the giving up of judgment? And the Buddha gave 8 causes of the judging mind. We could say the critical mind or the opinionated mind. And it's a really interesting list of causes. The first 3 causes of a judging mind: killing, stealing, and lying. So these 3 out of the 5 precepts are the first causes the Buddha gives for a judging mind. So I find that really interesting to consider, that when we don't keep precepts, when we act in harmful ways, in these kinds of ways, taking life, being dishonest, then we're creating the causes and conditions for a judgmental mind, for a critical mind. We can be critical of ourselves. It's kind of relatable, isn't it? If I do something that's really unwholesome and unfortunate, then I will tend to feel badly, because we know, we can appreciate what has been done, and I will tend to feel self-critical. And actually, interestingly, I may find that other people who behave similarly also can meet with my judgment, because it's something like a tension in me around this issue. There's something like a heat in my mind in relation to this issue, because it's something I indulge in myself. If I'm liable to theft in however subtle a way, taking what's not given, then I may be very judgmental of others who do that. And it's almost like my own self-judgment is lying dormant in the mind, and it will come up in relation to this area of behavior. If I'm someone who avoids harm, avoids taking what's not given, and is honest and sincere, avoids lying, then I'm not likely to be a harsh judge and critic of others who fall into these ways of suffering. I'm much more likely to have compassion for them, because it's not something that I'm immersed in myself. I'm free from this kind of unskillful behavior. So I can have compassion. I can have a lot of heart for those who are not yet free in the same way. So how interesting that it's our own defilements that create judgment of self, judgment of others, prejudice, criticism, finding fault. The next causes that the Buddha gives for the kind of effect of having a judging mind, being judgmental, are speaking divisively, greed and lust, blaming and insulting others. So quite an interesting group again. We speak divisively, we blame and insult others. It's almost like we're creating the causes for others to criticize us, like a vicious circle. For others to criticize us, and maybe also for us to criticize ourselves, to find fault with ourselves. The mind that seeks out someone to blame is something to be very watchful over, isn't it? Something to be very alert around. When we do that, when we want to point the finger at someone else, this is something so unwholesome, so ignorant, so blind. We want to notice whenever there's any inclination to sort of blame and judge others, because so often, isn't it, we can bring it home, bring it back to this one and see, what's really going on. And there is so much suffering there. There is this judging mind, this fault-finding mind, and kind of negative field. So what I pick up from this aspect of the teaching, that blame and insulting and divisive speech create judgment, is that it's a vicious circle. If we jump on the bandwagon of blame and judgment, then we keep stoking up the flames, don't we? We keep kind of adding fuel to the fire. So, as in so many ways, with so many other kinds of defilements, if we actually fall for them and we start behaving in these kind of unskillful ways, then we're growing the defilements. We're giving them more energy. We're evolving them. We're nourishing them. We're adding to them. So a judgmental mind leads to an even more judgmental mind, and an even more judgmental mind, like a downward spiral. We want to catch that momentum, to see it as soon as we can, and to stop it in its tracks, don't we? And to notice when we're projecting negativity out there, and be willing to own that negativity, to take responsibility for it, to leave others alone, to avoid tormenting others, and come back to the torment here in our hearts, in our minds. And the beauty of this is that when we're able to bring home the suffering, we can bear it. We can be present for that, and we can notice how, when we're awake to what's really going on, the sense of suffering, the negative energy, will tend to fade. It will fade away because it's given the attention, the wise attention that's needed for it to subside, for letting go to happen. The other of the group I just spoke about, greed and desire. Greed and desire as a cause for judgment, for a judging mind. It's quite interesting. The Buddha elsewhere, as we probably many of us know, the Buddha elsewhere said that greed and desire is a cause for all the strife and conflict in this world. And it's like not a direct, immediate association for everybody. It's something to contemplate, that wanting, greed and desire can lead to all the violence, the harm, the war, the bloodshed in this world. And of course, when we give it some time and space and consideration, we can see, well, of course that's true. usually even that's true, that all the strife is usually caused, conflict is usually caused by people wanting more of this or that, wanting to take this or that, land or resources or freedoms, to take it from where? To take it from others. So there's the source of the fights, people grabbing what they can for themselves, and in doing so, depriving others of what they need. And it's quite poignant, really, because we have these human bodies, don't we? And we have these needs, these natural needs, and also we have the tendency to want more of what we like. And yet, when we have a planet that's overburdened with human beings, there's only so much to go round, and we can have situations where there's a lack of resources, and it's difficult for people sometimes to share, to be willing to have less so that others can have their share. And we can recognize this. We can see how challenging it can be for us, and develop the willingness to let go of greed and desire. We can do our part to liberate this heart, to not contribute to any kind of, deprivation of others, to any kind of overconsumption, to be frugal in our ways. We don't have to be arahants to practice this, to be willing to just have what we need and not to take more, and trust, that the balance is served by this willingness to be frugal. And there are two more causes the Buddha gave for a judging mind. Anger is one of them. And again, it's like interesting to just consider how one defilement can lead to another, and how easy it is when we're caught up in anger. The momentum of it, the energy of it, the heat of it can often lead us to speaking and acting in ways that are, projecting out negative, critical thoughts, judgments around others. And it's really dangerous, isn't it? When there's anger in the mind, the chances are if we say anything at all, it will tend to be harmful, critical, judgmental. It's better to try to restrain these very compelling energies and just to be willing to sit with them, be with them, breathe with them, feel them in the body, and wait, patiently endure until they've burned through, until we're cooling down again, and we can more rationally, we can more wisely and kindly kind of judge how to relate, if there's any need to kind of respond to a situation that's brought up these feelings for us. It's so good, isn't it, to know when to be silent. And as meditators, we have such great resources because we can feel anger. We can notice it. When we've practiced body awareness consistently enough, we can be very in touch with the glimmerings of anger, just the beginning of irritability, disquiet, unease, and address it and allow this to be our priority, to feel what we feel and to very kindly, very patiently give wise attention here and allow whatever irritability, distress, tension has arisen to actually find its peace. So anger is very challenging sometimes for us to work with, but we can understand what the Buddha means. We can understand the connection here between anger and judgment, anger and views and opinions, anger and a critical mind. And the final cause of judgment the Buddha gave in this Potaliya Sutta is arrogance, pride. The sense of knowing best, the sense of knowing anything with any certainty, that brazen quality, arrogance, that gives us a sense of having the right to impose our judgments on others. Very dangerous, very tricky. And we can see how this kind of conceit, this kind of self-cherishing, or this kind of putting self in some way above others is really the cause of a lot of our suffering. And it's really beautiful to bring in the Buddha's reflections, as I mentioned in the meditation, the reality, the characteristics of reality that the Buddha pointed out again and again. We can appreciate that there is actually no self to be found in our experience, in our world. When we investigate our world, what do we find? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. There's a constant flow. It's constant change, impermanence, nothing staying the same. No possibility of holding on to anything. Everything's slipping through our fingers, just like picking up a lump of sand on the beach and trying to hold on to every grain. Impossible. It's just all falling down, falling out of our grasp. Everything's moving on. Everything's passing away. And we get to notice this. We get to really experience this, don't we, from the inside in our meditation practice. And then, of course, as the Buddha said in many suttas, if everything's impermanent, if things are changing constantly, how can I hold on to anything whatsoever and call it me, call it mine? It's so insubstantial. It's so impermanent. So therefore, how can I hold on to this sense of personhood, of self? And as we, develop these kind of ways of contemplating reality, and through our meditation practice, really experience the reality of insubstantiality, the impossibility of really holding on to being anything at all, then this quality of arrogance, of pride, starts to slowly deconstruct. And thank goodness for that. The sense of superiority over others, or the sense of inferiority, or even the sense of being the same, being equal, all of these are delusory because they're all predicated on a somebody here and a something over there, me and them, self and others. And so we can see the whole house of cards start to wobble, start to deconstruct, and eventually start to topple. And so let's see if we can, notice where there is a sense of arrogance, where there is a sense of pride, where there is a sense of self, and how painful that is, and how it leads to judgment, to holding on to my views, my opinions, my thoughts. In many ways, I think, for me anyway, the most subtle level of holding to a sense of self is there in relation to thinking. My thoughts. It's quite hard to see thoughts as impersonal sometimes. They feel so intimate. They feel so much like I'm producing them in some way. But of course, that's not the case. And as we keep developing our practice, we can start to see that actually, no, there's a kind of flow happening. There's quite a natural cause and effect. Patterns start to emerge, don't they, for us when we observe our thinking. We can start to disentangle the sense of self, and the thinking can start to separate out. And then this sense of my views, my opinions, my judgments can begin to fade, can begin to deconstruct. And we can see, yes, there is a tendency to hold to concepts, to produce ideas, to have views about this, that, or the other that's happening around, to think of this as good, this as bad, this is wanted, this is not wanted, this is right, and that is wrong. And we can start to see the interplay of experience and this response, this reactivity, and not hold to it as having anything really to do with anyone. It's conditioned. It's liable to arise and pass away. And this is a beautiful aspect of practice when we're able to begin to disidentify with thinking, isn't it? Because we can really free up and start to see how much cultural baggage there is, how much learned concepts that there are, how actually all the views and opinions and ideas are hinged on certain causes, experiences, cultures, and so forth. And if we can begin to free up from the addiction, the compulsion around our views and opinions, we can really start to recognize that, there is nothing, there's no idea, there's no concept that we want to hold on to. Every view, opinion, or judgment that may be experienced here is an obstruction. It's an obscuration. It's defiled. It's steeped in ignorance. It's preventing us from moving forward on the path of liberation. And so the Buddha's encouragement in this sutta, speaking to Potaliya, about how to really let go of judgment, in this very full and complete teaching, this list of qualities that we want to look out for and be willing to renounce, be willing to let go of. Qualities of harmfulness, taking what's not given, dishonesty, quality of divisiveness in our speech, greed and desire, the quality of blaming, the way we incline towards blaming others, to catch that, to see that, and to not nourish that in any way. The quality of the tendency to, when angry, to formulate thoughts and ideas around, self-criticism or criticism of others, judging, prejudice, and the tendency towards arrogance, that self-making tendency, self-elevating even tendency that we may notice, to be able to look out for these qualities, all 8, and to see how unchecked, unwitnessed skillfully, allowed to flow and follow their course, they will lead us into having a mind that's steeped in judgment, prejudice. It's clouded, it's not seeing clearly, caught up in samsara. And so, the Buddha is giving us this incredible opportunity in this sutta to consider and to let go of views and opinions, judgments, to free ourselves so that we can observe reality in a very innocent way, in a way that's open. We can learn from everything then. We can see that which may bring up in us some kind of judgment, and we can observe that without falling for the judgment, without believing in it. It can be so helpful for us to have always a question mark, always an element of distrust in relation to our thoughts and views and opinions. Is that really so? Am I sure? Could I perhaps not be seeing the full picture? Perhaps I can suspend my judgment and just see what comes next, open to the possibility that I don't actually know what's going on. And we move quite, smoothly and inexorably when we practice in this way with our thoughts, our views and our opinions. We move towards kind of don't know mind, the mind that is not really able to make anything of anything, not really able to say good or bad, right or wrong, simply open and observant, the witnessing mind, the knowing mind. And it's really interesting that, our understanding comes from this place of not knowing. When we're judging, when we're caught up in prejudice, then we have kind of tunnel vision, don't we? It's like we've got blinkers on. We can only see this much because we've already shut down reality, because we've sort of put it into a box of our own making. This is the way it is. But we don't really know the way it is. We can't know the way it is. Whatever we think is the case, the Buddha said, the reality is always other than that. If we can open up to not knowing, to recognize that aspect of reality, that this mind, this judging mind, this mind of concepts, this limited mind, cannot liberate itself, cannot know reality, cannot see clearly, then we are, really helping ourselves to free the heart from suffering, one step at a time. So let's have a question mark for our thoughts. Let's not be too ready to believe our thoughts. Let's be willing to let go of our judging mind and notice the peace and the kindness and the spaciousness of that, both for ourselves and also for other people, all those around us, for the field around us. So I hope these words can be of some benefit. Amen.